She hadn't meant to sit there. Emily Carter's mind was too foggy to notice the half-empty coffee cup on the table. The morning rush at Benson's cafe buzzed around her, but she didn't care. Her hands trembled as she pulled the folded eviction notice from her purse, the paper already creased from being read too many times. Her rent was due in 2 days. Her job, the one she thought was secure, had disappeared overnight when the company downsized. Her savings? Gone. Life had a way of collapsing quietly, like a house losing its last nail. She just needed a moment to think. If you believe true kindness always finds its way back, please tap the like button now and subscribe to support more stories like this. Emily pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to stop the tears. That's when a low voice interrupted her storm of thoughts. Rough day. She froze. Slowly, she looked up. Across from her sat a man, late 50s maybe, silver hair, flannel jacket, gentle eyes behind reading glasses. She realized, to her horror, that she'd sat at his table. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," she stammered, grabbing her bag. "I didn't see." But he lifted a hand, stopping her. "It's all right. Stay. Nobody deserves to be alone when they look that sad." The words hit her harder than she expected. There was no pity in his voice, just warmth. She hesitated, then sat back down. They didn't talk for a while. He went back to reading a newspaper, and she stared out the window, trying to gather courage to leave. But somehow, the silence between them didn't feel awkward, it felt safe. Finally, he folded the paper and looked at her again. "You look like you've been carrying something heavy. Sometimes, talking helps." She wanted to say no. To keep her pain tucked away. But his kindness disarmed her. So she told him. Not everything, just enough, losing her job, the rent notice, the fear of starting over. Her voice cracked halfway through, and she laughed awkwardly to hide it. He listened. No interruptions. No advice. Just quiet understanding. When she finished, she sighed, almost embarrassed. "Sorry. I didn't mean to unload all that on a stranger." The man smiled softly. "You know, my wife used to say, when life knocks the wind out of you, let someone else breathe hope into you for a while. Maybe that's all you needed today." His words lingered. She wanted to ask about his wife, but something in his eyes told her the story behind that sentence was painful too. They sat for another few minutes, talking about ordinary things, coffee, the cold October weather, the small-town kindness that still existed if you looked close enough. Then, as she checked her phone, she noticed the time. "I should go," she said, standing up. "Thank you, for listening. You have no idea how much that meant." He smiled again. "Take care of yourself, Emily." She froze. "Wait, how do you know my name?" He nodded toward the coffee cup sleeve. Her name was written there from the barista. "Ah," she breathed, half laughing, half flustered. She waved and left the cafe, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. That afternoon, she returned to her apartment, ready to start job hunting again. But when she opened her purse to take out her wallet, she found a folded envelope tucked inside. She didn't remember putting it there. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a check for $2,000 and a note. "You reminded me of my daughter. She passed 3 years ago. I couldn't help her when she needed it most. Please, let me help you. Start again. David." Emily dropped to her knees, the letter trembling in her hands. The man at the cafe, David, he wasn't just a kind stranger. He was someone carrying his own quiet grief, choosing to turn it into compassion. Her heart broke open with gratitude and disbelief. She didn't know how to find him again. The cafe staff said he was a regular but hadn't shown up in weeks. She never saw him after that day. But his kindness didn't fade, it became a compass. Emily found a new job 2 months later. She started volunteering at a local shelter on weekends. Each time she handed a warm meal to someone who looked lost, she thought of that cafe, that moment, that man. And sometimes, she'd whisper quietly, "You breathed hope into me. Now it's my turn." We'd love to hear your story. What is the most memorable act of unexpected kindness you have witnessed or received? Share it in the comments below. Years later, when Emily opened her own little cafe, there was one rule every employee knew by heart. If someone looks like they've lost their way, sit with them. Listen. Be the stranger who cares. Above the counter hung a framed note, the same one David had written. Customers asked about it all the time, and Emily always smiled. That, she'd say, is the story of how a stranger's kindness saved my life. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who believes the world still has good people in it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep spreading kindness, because sometimes, one simple act can change everything.